Hi, good morning. I'm Alex Potts, and I'm the president of Buckingham Strategic Partners. I wanted to welcome you all to this morning's webinar, and wanted to thank you all for making the time. We understand how valuable your time is, and we definitely want to make the most of it for you. For those of you that are coming on to this webinar, I'm absolutely delighted to introduce a few people on here, and we're going to share a little bit about what we do and why we do it. I've got my co-host, Steve Atkinson. Steve and I will tag team together on this. We've got Chris Winkler and Michael Evans, which Steve will give more introduction to in just a few minutes. And Chris and Michael are both absolutely amazing advisors who we actually have the honor of working with. And they're going to share a little bit of how they work with us and give you all kind of a no BS, cut to the chase version of how we potentially help them help their clients. And so actually I wanted to give you all a little bit of an overview of Buckingham Strategic Partners, then I'll turn it to Steve. We started the company, and actually I started April 19th, 1990, and I started with 3 financial advisors. Some of those you may know, and one in particular who runs CEG, John Bowen. And these 3 advisors were basically doing commission-based planning. This is 1990, right? Or commission-based advisory, as they called it. And they decided to make a fundamental shift in their business to go to a fee-based platform. And what they decided to do is to truly act as fiduciaries for their clients. And so they hired me to come in out of Santa Clara University and basically start building a team to help support their business. Their whole thesis is that they did not want to deal with trading, transfers, distributions, et cetera, and they wanted to spend more time with their clients. If you fast forward today, we've, and actually these numbers are of December 31st of 2020, we are now over $40 billion serving, luckily 1,000 advisors or more. We have a full team. This is our passion. It's something that we absolutely love. But let me talk a little bit about what we do. And I gave a little bit of how we got formed. The whole premise of what we were trying to do and what Carl, John, and Alan, and I'll say with the Buckingham team as well, back in 1994, the whole idea was for advisors to spend more time with their clients and less time dealing on the back office, trading, transfers, distribution, paperwork, reconciliation, technology, and the like. And if you think about that for a minute, we were building effectively a comparative advantage and getting really good at those behind the scenes processes. And what the advisors were doing were spending more time with their clients and actually, arguably growing faster, having higher client satisfaction, having a more job satisfaction because they didn't have to deal with that. And then we built out this business supporting the advisors. So when I think about it today, you and your clients are absolutely at the hub of what we do. We geek out on coming up with solutions to help you help your clients. So maybe in the same way, if you want to think about it, we get the name TAMP, which candidly I'm not a fan of. I like to think of us as a CAP, a comprehensive advisor platform. We try to help advisors. Again, we have a common investment ideology as well, right? We're not tactical managers. We're not all things to all people. We have a way of doing asset management, which we'll talk a little bit more, right, about working with markets and having this market efficiency. But the advisors we work with have seen kind of the benefits of the outsourcing to us and the ability to spend more time with their clients. I'm going to dive into the weeds a little bit, but I want to ask actually and ask of all of you, you have a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And I wanted to ask you if you could, in the Q&A, just put one problem that you're working on that kind of led you to be on this phone call. If you could just do that, take 1 minute, just again, one problem that you're working on that kind of led you to be on this call. And I want to make sure that we actually hit that up in one way or another. All right, we've got these. I'm going to turn it to Steve, and we're going to talk a little bit about some detail. And also, Steve, take it away.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Alex. And hello to everybody. Thank you for taking the time. As Alex mentioned, my name is Steve Atkinson. Managing Director of Advisor Relations here at Buckingham. I don't believe everybody can see the comments in Q&A, so I just want to read them out, what a few people wrote on there. So spending too much time on running the business, looking to find out if our tech platform is better than what they currently have. We have an existing advisor that's already working with us, wanting to make sure they haven't missed something. Somebody needs an exit plan for their own practice. And another challenge is facing back office paper demands, aren't we all? Paperwork, geez. But I appreciate you putting that in there. It definitely gives us some context on where to steer this conversation. And as Alex mentioned, two of your peers, Chris Winkler and Michael Evans, are on the call. So they're advisors just like you, running businesses. They have staff, same paperwork demands, a lot of the very similar things. And in a second, we're going to talk to them and get their insights on how they're tackling a lot of this stuff. So, but before we do that, I thought it was important to at least show one slide that gives you an idea of all of the different things that Buckingham can provide advisors in helping you provide solutions and deliverables for your clients. There's no, it's as you can see, there's a lot of stuff on here, and I attempted to highlight a few things that we made categories as something that maybe you didn't know we had it, right? So we bucketed these things in 4 different categories, but a couple of things that we really we may not think is, but when you work with Buckingham, in addition to typical investment portfolios and the ability for us to take some of the workload off on the back office from doing trading, rebalancing, and billing, let's call those table stakes these days. Some of the things that we do have in addition are we do offer a custom fixed income bond desk. So for, especially in low yield environment like we have been, it's an opportunity for certain clients that if you want to, not use a mutual fund, you can actually buy individual bonds. We have a bond desk that does that for you, and there's no extra charge for that. So it's a way to, in a way, eliminate the expense ratio of the bond fund, which obviously potentially increases the return to your clients because you're taking out costs. A few other things that may not be obvious is we do have SMAs, which come in handy for certain more complex client situations that have ESG characteristics or desires. Also, tax situations where concentrated stocks. So SMAs are a great solution there. And then we also offer asset location, which is important. If you look at the Vanguard Alpha study, even Michael Kitces, et cetera, they'll talk about how asset location can actually, if done properly, can increase returns over time. And then also tax loss harvesting. So solutions and process that we help advisors with, and in a lot of cases, handle a lot of the back office. So for those advisors that are looking at those things, maybe doing those today, it is very time consuming as your practice grows and more clients. So offloading those tasks, even though you keep the flexibility to provide the direction, offloading those tasks to someone else to do is going to free up your time, probably to do more high payoff activities. Under administration and technology, things that you may not be aware of is we do work with the big 4 custodians, Schwab, Fidelity, TD, and Pershing PAS, their RIA platform. Some advisors, RIAs, they're just at Schwab, right? And then they come across that client or prospect who happens to have a Fidelity account and they love Fidelity. And they're like, why leave? Well, by working with Buckingham, you work with one team here at Buckingham, and you don't have to engage all those individual custodians and take on their nuances or meet their minimums and pay their rates. You get our pricing, and you can use any custodian if you desire. From a tech standpoint, we do offer advisors either Envestnet or Orion, so you have a choice there. So for the person that's wondering if we have a better tech platform, again, I don't know what you're on, but we could give you a demo of Envestnet or Orion to see if that might be better off for you. And again, we're doing a lot of the work behind the scenes, so you don't have to run it yourself and take off some of that workload. The last thing I'll touch on is under practice management concepts. We do have an advanced planning team. You may be aware that Jeffrey Levine, well-known, thought leader in the industry, he's our chief planning officer, and he has many people under there that have a variety of expertise that constantly are helping our advisors that get those more complex, larger account situations, whether it's a client selling their business, they need certain trusts, tax planning work, et cetera. advisors do have access to that advanced planning team. They'll get on the call with you, and they'll get on the call with clients. And in some situations, they'll actually travel and do those meetings alongside you. So great resource that, again, you may not have realized we offer that in helping you as you grow your practice. And the last thing I'll point out here is this admired leadership study group. We believe strongly at Buckingham that getting advisors together, working on problems, working on their businesses is probably where the most magic happens in getting clarity and getting further in your practice. So we've been offering study groups for, maybe 20 some years. And we call it Admired Leadership Study Group. We call it Admired Advisor Study Group, but it's based off of the workings of Admired Leadership, which is a separate company that provides the learning and trainings. And that's something that has been very beneficial for advisors. So as Alex mentioned, there's a lot of stuff on this slide here. What I'd love for you to do is, leverage that Q&A that Alex talked about earlier. What I'd love to see you put in there is there anything that you see on the screen that piques your interest? Like, well, I was attending this webinar, but geez, I didn't know that was something that was being offered. So I'd love to know if there's anything on here that you want to learn more about. Again, we've got either myself or Alex, but we also have your peers here coming up in a second with Michael Evans and Chris Winkler.
Hey, Steve, one question that came up. Jeff, thank you for this question. He says, I'm being into sustainable investing, DFA, and does that jive with your investment philosophy? And the answer is unequivocally. For those on this call, you may or may not know, we are the largest client of Dimensional Fund Advisors. We manage we have over $30 billion of their asset class strategies within our client portfolio. So this is a big deal for us. We've been running sustainable investing portfolios, I believe, for 7 or 8 years. So we were early on. We're also on the Sustainable Investing Council for Dimensional as well. We do have the pleasure of working with a few firms that are industry leaders in this as well, where we do, we help on the portfolio construction and also do the back office detail, comprehensive advisor platform. Notice I didn't say TAMP, so we do that work for them. So Jeff, yes, we are a firm believer in letting markets work, not doing tactical allocation, and Dimensional is a big beneficiary of that for our clients.
And add on to that, as Alex mentioned, we can, deliver this evidence-based investment approach using the sustainable screens, both in a fund complex, but also in the separately managed account solution realm now. And our chief research officer, Larry Swedroe, if you might have saw his name during the trivia, he has a new book out or coming out specifically on ESG, covering this topic. So it definitely fits into a solution that we provide for those with that desire.
Yeah, and Jeff, actually, if you're interested in that book, once it's out, and that, I'm happy to send you a copy as well. And if anybody else wants one, just ping us in that in the Q&A, and we'll make sure we get that to you. Yep. One other addition that I'll add to the slide too, Stephen, I'll shut up, but we are working with Dimensional on their separately managed accounts as well. So for those of you who showed up this time, I would imagine the next set of slides will also have Dimensional's separately managed account on the high net worth solutions as well for next time.
Let's introduce you to the two advisors here. So we'll start with Michael Evans. We'll go left to right. Michael, welcome to the webinar.
Thanks so much, Steve. I appreciate it.
So can you just share with everyone, what's your background, name of your company, location, what year did you start working with Buckingham? Anything that you think is important for us to know?
Sure. Thanks. I appreciate that. And thanks for everybody joining this webinar. When I did my own due diligence on how to open a firm, how to properly align it with my clients, I actually wasn't aware of TAMPs at that time. And I actually did it all on my own and hired other people to help me do it. And now that Cogent's been around for over 11 years now, I'm proud to say that I only did it for a year on my own. Now I feel like I'm in the Buckingham family and a part of their organization now for a decade. And it's been really beneficial to myself, my team, but more importantly, I think to my clients. So Cogent is located in Chicago, although we have offices in Utah also, where I'm speaking to you from today. We have clients in 15 states. We represent about 45 right fit families, really high achievers, successful group. And my team is made up of my partner, Kelly Stanley, who's a co-advisor and just a wonderful person to partner up with, and Liz Winkle. Liz is our client relationship person. The team comes together to really serve clients in a holistic manner. And it's just a pleasure to be able to have deep resources, like a deep bench of people to go to assist my clients. And Buckingham provides a lot of that for myself and for my clients.
Thanks, Michael. What were some of the challenges that you were looking to solve when you partnered up initially? Like what made you reach out and explore this route?
In all honesty, I was in a completely different profession, that I did not have individual clients and didn't have the background. I went to school back for the CFP and everything, but I didn't have the background. So I literally wanted to make sure I was doing everything appropriately for my clients, to make sure that I had the uncle or aunt down the hall that I could go to and review situations. Stress test things that I'm thinking of, looking at my technology, looking at how I was reporting, financial planning. And I guess the biggest thing was I really wanted to mature as an advisor. I wanted a group that worked with clients, not just worked with advisors and gave them information, but the fact that Buckingham at the time had a growing RIA was really important to me, because I wanted to also have relationships with people that sat across the table from other clients. So besides the tech stack and all that, the education, both of myself and my clients, were really paramount for the things that I was looking for.
Great. Thanks, Michael. And last question, and then we'll move on to Chris, is, for those that are thinking about, maybe they're challenged with their time, right? They're getting caught up in running the business. Can you just share where are you spending your time these days? And, with your partnership, I hope you're spending more time doing high payoff activities. Can you talk about where you're spending your time? Like 80% of your time?
Sure. I'd love to. I really enjoy having conversations. I think it's probably one of the reasons why I'm on this today with you guys. But I spend the majority of my time. I actually have done a little bit of inventory on my time, and I try to spend about 70% of my time speaking with prospects, clients, team members, and strategic partners. And those strategic partners can also be COIs that serve our clients. So I really want to focus on that. I've delegated off so many other things. Now, of course, you can't delegate everything off and, still spend the other 30% of the time. But on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I consider them focus days. I'm really in conversations, much like we're having here today, assisting people achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve.
Great. Thank you, Michael. We're going to come back to you here in a second. Thanks for giving us the background there. And again, if you have any questions, again, I think you're going to see here that our advisors that are joining us today, Michael and Chris, again, they're volunteering their time. They're willing to share anything. So they're willing to be open and honest about their experience, how they're leveraging things. So feel free to type in any questions and we'll get to them here very soon. Chris Winkler, welcome to the webinar.
Thanks, Steve. Really appreciate this, and always a pleasure to be with you guys.
Fantastic. We're going to go through the same questions with you. Give us some background on your company. And I'm going to admit now we're highly concentrated in the Midwest here, once you reveal where you're located.
That's right. Yeah, so our firm is based on the southern and western shores of Lake Michigan. We're really bedroom communities of Chicago. We have additional offices out on the West Coast in the Bay Area. Most of my time in the development of my practices occurred here in the Midwest. And so we similarly are positioned to Michael. We have about 100 households that we support. We figured out our ideal client profile many years ago, really with a lot of help and direction from Buckingham, understanding that, we wanted to understand ourselves to better serve people. And that really does transmute. So Our partnership, when we were looking for in a partnership, I came from a much larger organization, had an executive role in the space, really space adjacent, worked for a very large insurance-based broker dealer, and decided that I wanted to go out and work in private practice. And really a lot of that was driven based on building a higher quality of life for myself, my family, and those in and around our community. Those were really the values, the core drivers of why I started our firm 12 years ago. And one of the things that I really was afraid when I made this transition, I always wanted to maintain our independence and autonomy. Is something that's hypercritical. I saw what losing that and losing myself to that was like at this larger firm that I had preceded before coming over and starting Aspirion, and the cost of that. But I also understood very early on the limitations of being a small firm. We have a team that is 3 advisors, 3 support staff, and that's always evolving and changing. But understanding that even with a strong and highly experienced and capable team, we have our own limitations. We all have our own blind spots and our shadows, and that there are frankly things that are done and executed at scale much more efficiently beyond what we could do as a firm. So that's what I was looking for initially, is helping to provide resources and scale that I knew that we just couldn't create independently on our own. Yeah. And then what I found, really kind of the bigger part of this, was that in finding a culture that was similarly aligned, that's where all the magic started to happen. I try to do everything in my life around an evidence-based philosophy. It's not only the way we manage our investments, there are many other things that being evidence-based is really kind of the core tenet of the way I think about things and the way our team. And it's really something special to be a part of a culture that, of that shared philosophy. People like Michael, I've really built some of the best friendships over the last, I only found Buckingham in about 2015. I kind of was working with them as a part of an investment sleeve outside of that. And until I attended my first Cornerstone event with Gene Fama and Steve Atkinson, it really flipped me, and I felt the presence of that culture. So, since it's about 2015, 2016, we really attached ourselves and tethered ourselves much closer to this community. And we've been the greatest benefactors of that by a very wide margin. And we've only seen, Buckingham continue to improve themselves. And they have many of the same aspirations that we do, which is this constant and never ending improvement. And really market forces demand that of all of us in our business, but it's great to be a part of a community where that's willing, where people are willing and excited about the evolution of change and being out in the front side of that to benefit, the stakeholders that we have, both our teammates and ultimately our clients.
Great, thanks, Chris. The benefit of going second is the 3 questions and you covered them all right there. So. Sorry, Michael. Next time you'll go second.
Hey, he's a much better leadoff hitter than I am. Put me in the pocket.
I know we got some questions already coming in, but feel free to type in any questions. Alex, I don't know if you had any questions you wanted to tackle first, but if not, I do have one.
Yeah, go for it, Steve.
Christian culture, and we can say, most of the people attending here, you probably don't know us, right? We can say all we want. We care so much about the advisor from our lens, and we want to create this culture, but how would you sum up the culture that you're referring to? Like, if for somebody that doesn't know it, that's not part of the Buckingham community of advisors, what's the best way to describe it from your lens?
Wow. I mean, there's a lot of communities we all decide to be a part of, right? And I think we are social beings, even those of us that are introverted, like myself, and appreciate our own private time. But we really do become the greatest benefactors of what's the old saying, you become the product of the books you read and the people you associate with, right? And so This business, as many of us that run independent businesses understand, it to be a very lonely business. It could be a place of isolation. And so, having a community around, these areas of our lives where we have gaps, maybe someone who's experienced that exact position that you've been in and found, ways to work through those deficiencies, or finding support resources. I mean, we just had a meeting, an Admired Advisor Leadership Study Group meeting a few weeks ago, which was just absolutely spectacular. It's the first one I've participated in person, obviously, for the last couple of years, and I missed it. I met a guy there that is very similarly situated as our firm, and we spent an evening over dinner just kind of working through the vision that we have for the next 5 and 10 years, and be able to do that in a really, in a space with someone who's similarly situated, shares common values, but looks at it differently. He provided, immense value. It's so much different than just hiring a consultant, which has its own value, but being in the trenches with, a community of people like Michael, like other and one of the things I've seen is, I noticed very early on, I walked into the room and I went, okay, everybody's got their act together here. There are high standards. These are people that operate their lives the way, many of us would aspire to. Yeah, this is a great fit for me. So I don't know. Hopefully that answered some of that question, Steve, for you.
Yep. Michael, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I just want to jump in and say it. I can almost echo most of the things that Chris just said were the impetus for me. When you look at the three things I was looking for a group with integrity that had client focus in the same way I did, and was shared my investment philosophy, the evidence-based way of not only investing, and as Chris mentioned, looking at other things in your life. I was already using Dimensional products long before I even started Cogent. But when I mentioned the Buckingham community to other advisors in that, they were very appreciative of the culture in the community. But even prior to starting Cogent, I was at FPA meetings in the Midwest, trying to learn more about the model, the business, about how I wanted to approach this. I took 4 years to do my due diligence. And in the 07 through 09 downturn, I saw advisors that were sweating their own advice. And I really don't believe that they believed what they were telling their clients. I sat at a lunch table with about 7 or 8 other advisors. And at the end of it, I really suggested strongly that they need advisors for themselves, that they really weren't espousing confidence that this too will end, that things will come out better the other side. And I kind of challenged them and said, if you don't have a place to be able to talk this out, to be able to work out the things that you have, you're not doing the right thing for your clients. So I suggested that they find a community amongst themselves right there at the table, or within their own firms or outside. And by coming to Buckingham and joining that group, while I share Chris's strong instincts for the independence, I want Cogent Strategic Wealth in Chicago to remain independent so that I can have the life I want, share that with the clients and help them get it. But I also want the community to support us in good times and in difficult times. And that's one thing that we saw, during the COVID crisis. Now, personally, I think it was a sprint. That was not a marathon. It was hard. It wasn't easy, but it was quick. What are we going to do the next time we have a 6-quarter downturn or a 7-quarter downturn? I think advisors, we are leaders, and we need to have other leaders around us that we can vet out things, discuss things, maybe even talk about fears and trepidations that might be well-founded, but still you need to know you have community so that this too will pass. And when you have advisors like Chris and others in our groups, they really come together, as you said, about how much you learn, Chris. I have learned so much through Buckingham, but I've learned even so much more through the other advisors, both about running practices, dealing with issues that we have with personnel and clients, and also just so much more of technology and other things within our firms that is even larger than the scope that Buckingham provides.
Thanks, Michael.
For you both, for Chris and Michael, An observation I've had is that you both kind of came in it from the investment world,
Mhm.
but you've shifted your value to more about the client. Like, how did you think about that? We see, and I'll give a quick preface of this. We see advisors sometimes that spend so much time on the investments that they kind of forget about the clients, right? How did you two make that transition? Was that a natural one for you? Yeah, I'd love to just hear. And actually, Chris, if you want to start that off.
Sure, yeah, happy to. We tried to solve the investment solution ourselves, quite honestly, because I really thought about it as being in the early stages an issue of just imperative importance, right? And showing and displaying that independence and that spirit that we carry directly to our clients, and knowing that we're not, coming from an environment prior of incredible conflicted interest, it was something that I really wanted to anchor ourselves deeply to. And so what we did is we actually, because we're the proximity, we have Chicago, and I had some relationships with the team at InvestNet, we actually went directly to InvestNet and worked with their CFAs. They have a great group of CFAs there. They probably, I think, since kind of unraveled this division, but it was back in 2010, we went to them and had them help us really build an investment platform and solution for our little tiny firm of insignificance. And it was crazy, we just found, and we met quarterly. We had an investment committee of which they made up. They did the disproportionate heavy lifting. And it was really an inefficient use both of my time and of theirs, frankly. It was not something that we saw direct value being passed on to the client. And but the good thing that came out of that is my first introduction to Buckingham at the time, it was formerly Loring, was made. And they were big advocates of the relationship they had with you, and that's what opened the door. So we tried it. I wish to say that we were smarter, like Michael. We beat that path down and tried to solve it because it was so critical for me to honor that independence and that spirit onto our clients. And then, and what we've kind of come to realize now, as many of us, is the investments problem has already been solved, as I've heard you reference before, Alex. The investor problem is where we need to put our energy. It's what we're compensated for. And, in life, we can have anything that we want, but we can't have it all. So just recognizing my own limitations and our firm's limitations, and partnering with someone who had a stronger core competency around this work, has been incredibly beneficial ultimately to our client.
And Chris, one last follow-up. Like, you provide this incredible value to your clients. And how did that start to evolve? Like, again, outside of the investments, like the investments became the table stakes for you.
Mhm.
But now as you continue to build your firm out, how do you think about that? You've built an extraordinary business on that.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, I think that I think the consumer is getting smarter. They still need help. It's as we all understand and know, we all get caught by our behavioral biases, and so it's by having this investment management piece. I wouldn't say it's not outsourced. It's a collaboration. This is the way we interpret this. Our hands are still on the wheel. We still can influence. We can build ESG portfolios in our California offices. Our entire models are built around ESG because our client base is highly attuned and sensitive to that. We look at it as our hands are still on the wheel here, but our clients need more from us than just a rate of return. And it's the area that we have the least amount of control and influence, right? So then where can we pour ourselves? And the consumer is getting smarter, as we all know. If it's not our existing clients that are having these expectations of us, I hear this conversation about fee compression all the time, that there's no fee compression. And I'd like to offer kind of a contrary view of that. I think there's incredible fee compression. Our clients, we may not be charging less, but our clients' expectations in the firm of the future is going to have to do a lot more for the same dollar, which I think provides great outcomes for the client. So we have to understand, what can we partner and find really gifted strategic partners in, so that we can it allow us to have more time amongst our team to support our clients and really living into their biggest dreams, right? If our hands aren't on the wheel of that and guiding our client, I just think we're falling short.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. Michael, you came in as a very successful trader, right? Like the hardcore trading, and then you start your advisory business. But I'll tell you our observations, watching you and working with Kelly and what you do for your clients is so far beyond the investments. Can you talk about how that transition or that evolution worked for you and your firm?
Sure. I'd love to. So everyone knows I was a professional commodity trader that traded fixed income products. And at the CME, I saw an incredible amount of wealth created. Unbelievable. It was a great place to be at the right time, at the right place. What I also saw were really smart people generating large wealth, but fettering it away by going to investments that were horrible. That, you almost had to become rich twice in this world of trading. And I thought that was such a waste. When you think about the damage that it does to families, to communities, to individuals themselves, I literally have some horror stories that I didn't want to. So my real impetus for me and my family, and it's been 21 years now that I've adopted investing personally like this for myself, was I didn't want to screw it up. I didn't want to have to get rich twice. I didn't want to have to, prove to everybody that I had the intellect to do it twice. So I adopted this for myself because I wanted it to serve me and my family, to give us independence. And then others that I worked with came to me and said, would you share that with us? Because we're kind of tired of being taken advantage of and being in lawsuits and having inappropriate products and things sold to us. And so that was really my impetus to start the business, was that I wanted to share this with them, kind of this intelligent way of investing that's easy to understand, not the easiest to implement and stick with. I would say that, especially with people with JDs, MBAs, and PhDs, they think that the more they spend and the more sophisticated the strategies are, the better they will turn out. And while that works with, picking a surgeon or sometimes buying the right car or whatever, automobile or the house, it doesn't work in your investments. And I really wanted to use the education component as a way to really put the client in the middle of the target zone that we wanted to work with and elevate them in their life and actually relieve them of the burden of performing as well as they did in their prior life. These are high achievers. These are ass kickers. And when you look at their money, like literally when they were looking at their spouses, it was a metric by which they gauge their own success. We made it, now we invest it, and we're going to grow it. I wanted to remove some of that burden from them, like I did for myself, to be able to prudently grow the wealth to accomplish everything that I wanted to, and then to do it for our clients.
Oh, that's awesome. No, thanks for sharing that. Actually, we have a question on the Q&A. Steve, do you want to hit that?
Yeah, I got a great question. I'm sure it's on everyone's minds from Karen. And it is, can you either of you talk about the day-to-day operations? So when you're an advisor working with Buckingham and you've got your team at Buckingham versus doing it on your own, right? What does the day-to-day flow of operations look like? Like, how does it actually work, right? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I'll go first this time, Chris, if that's okay. For my team, I have each one of my team members own their position. So I am all about the client communications and working with others. So in the last 3 days, I have spoken to probably 4 CPAs. I've spoken to 5 clients, 2 prospects, 2 people from the investment policy committee at Buckingham, and others like that. Actually, we're interviewing a new donor advised fund for our firm because I think we've matured away from another firm. So I had conversations with that. Buckingham opens doors to speaking to people. So the IPC committee is phenomenal. And having access to people like that, really great. Kelly does a lot of the financial planning. So she is often talking to people within Buckingham about the financial planning software, its capabilities, how to lever it, how to model things. That's really big. She also deals with the advanced planning things, insurance, tax rate, legacy planning. And the things that we interact with Buckingham is both using their resources and their content, and also their team members. So Bill Morgan just spoke to us the other day. He's on the advanced planning committee about the possibilities of what's happening with the tax law. Jeffrey Levin came in to talk about estate and tax law things and all the iterations and how we should be forming that. And then Liz Winkle within our firm, she's our client relationship person. She handles all of the minutia, from the scheduling of clients to the paperwork to working with custodians and working with the trading team at Buckingham that handles our portfolios. Now, you might find that interesting. I'm a former trader. I think the least best use of my time is actually managing the portfolios. Picking the portfolios, the amount of risk with the client's input and showing them through a financial plan how it'll serve them. That is my role, 100%. But actually the execution, the implementation, and the management of it, I don't think I add value by that. So I delegate that to Buckingham. So our team, but Liz is really the one that integrates very heavily with them to solve problems, to make sure custodians are on their game. I understand we're with TD, but I understand Fidelity's had a lot of challenges lately. And to have the leverage and the sophistication and relationship that Buckingham has with Fidelity, I believe has to pay off for advisors that are within the network to make sure that things get done in the way that they should on a timely manner. So that's how we work with Buckingham, besides study groups and other things. I'm actually on the portal right now over here on one of my other screens. Just before we got on, I was pulling down an education piece to send to a client. I think it's very much interwoven into our culture and how we integrate. And I hope, Karen, that was helpful.
And Karen, you also had a question around how do we work with advisors that don't custody at TD, Fidelity, or Schwab. The other one is Pershing PAS you can use. So if you're custodying at somebody else besides those four, you would to work with us, you would want to move those assets to one of those custodians. You do not need to establish your own direct relationship. You can, but you don't have to. You can leverage our relationship and get our pricing and all that stuff. But yeah, those are the four places we do work with the custodians.
Hey, Chris, anything that you wanted to add to that prior question?
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, Michael just absolutely hit it out of the park there with that. We are very similarly situated to Michael. We've been very intentional in the way we have, and I have, as a leader of our firm, thought about the way I use my time. We've been very intentional about finding people's gifts, their unique abilities inside of our firm, identifying those, being very clear about them, communicating those, talking through those and their specific job roles, things that give them energy. I think what happens for a lot of people in really at any level of institution, size of company, is that people kind of get lost in things that don't really either give them energy or give them joy, where they really are in their core competency. And one of the things that we kind of strip back very early on is let's really look at where people can thrive inside of our organization, myself included, and then really bring support around that. So here's one of the great things about this in our partnership specifically with Buckingham is that inside of our team, our stakeholders inside of our team members have counterparts inside of Buckingham that have those same core competencies and unique abilities and gifts that really thrive. And so for them to be able to collaborate with someone on an operations desk or an operations team or portfolio design specialist or an advanced planning partner or marketing, I mean, it's great being able to have these other people that we can collaborate with inside of it. So we're really not on this island of isolation. And they have their own relationships internally that I don't even have. I mean, these are great. We go to conferences and they're connecting for dinner in the same ways. And then we'll always have a download when we get back about, we talked about this with our Buckingham partner. It's just phenomenal. So it's an environment that allows them to thrive and grow into a vision that they can own. Much like Michael, we give incredible ownership to our stakeholders internally. But I'm limited as a leader. Those aren't my gifts. My gifts are not their gifts, and fortunately, we play better because of it and play bigger. But they have counterparts inside of Buckingham that do, and that synergy that's created from those relationships is just absolutely special. It's dynamic.
I was going to talk about, the big part of the, as we were marketing this webinar is around through the partnership, how can it help you grow, right? I know a lot of us want to serve and help more families. And I know both Chris and Michael, you both have had great growth over the last handful of years, probably since your inception, actually. And at Buckingham, we're not going to take any credit for that growth. I mean, a lot of things you talked about, time management, where you're spending your time, maybe more high payoff activities, leveraging some of the resource so you can solve more complex clients and, land clients maybe that you wouldn't have if you didn't have those resources. But in the spirit of talking about growth, and anybody that wants to grow their practice or has a growth challenge, can you just talk about how has the partnership helped you grow? And we may be just covering old ground here, but any thoughts around, how you've been able to grow differently, faster? Is there anything that through the partnership it's helped you with?
Yeah, I'll jump in there real fast. I think one of the best things you can have as an advisor is the confidence to know what you do know and what you don't know. And when clients bring challenges to you, both inside their life and their business, within their families, it's really nice to know that you have the confidence of knowing, one, you're doing the right thing, two, you're serving them in a model that's works in their best interest, but also that there's this deep bench around you to help you be able to go through things. So we have had some very unique situations brought to us by prospects. And I don't feel like I always have to say, oh, I've got the solution for that. What I often say is, let's dig a little deeper into that and let's look at it. And we'll get some information from the client, whether it's a statement or a policy or something. And then I can go through this wide network, both within Buckingham and also within the advisors like Chris and others, and go to them and say, have you seen this before? This is new to our firm. We haven't had this challenge for a client. And how can we address this? And it works both ways. So I'm looking at one of the things here is Parametric. Parametric is an SMA that we use for one of our clients. And it's really answered so many decisions and challenges, that the client had. So you have the confidence to deliver a very broad solution to clients, but you don't have to be the experts in all of them. You can just merely respect it, say, let's dig back into that. We have some ideas, and then come back to it and be able to offer them choice. Let them make the decision, which is the best way for them to go, and then help them execute on it. And that's often the best way to get buy-in. It's their money and it's their future, right? And in order for them to be able to stick with it through a long period of time, Buckingham helps me and my team understand the solutions, understand what maybe the limitations are. We can explain that to the clients and then talk about the trade-offs. And when they own it, they'll stick with it and it's better for them over the long term.
And Michael, I think it's interesting about that. Chris, earlier you mentioned, your belief that a lot of the pricing pressure comes down to you got to deliver more, right? Maybe your price isn't going down, but you just have to deliver more for what you're charging. I think that's that's a good point you made there, Michael. Is it sounds like through the partnership, with this increased demand of things the clients expect of you, you have resources or expertise beyond your own skill set to tap into to meet those demands, so that you can keep the client, but also charge the fees for the client for that service.
Yeah, so one of the big things for high achievers I've found is the transition away, their identity of being all, the important person that they were. So when she leaves her firm or he leaves his career as a professional athlete or whatever it might be, a CEO or something, that their identity changes. One of the things I was really surprised is Alan Spector and his group was brought to me by Buckingham, and he's written multiple books, and he'll actually consult your client, speak with them, they can hire him. But he also has books, tools, other things that you can introduce that solve challenges that are financial in some way, but they're much more emotional and identity based. Yeah. And to be able to offer that to somebody, that's phenomenal. Talk to their spouse, he'll tell you that she was so invested in, her career and her work and everything, that now that that's going to be gone, it's a little intimidating. And to have just a resource like that to share is amazing.
Chris, how about you in terms of the growth and that, like you've been able to grow? I mean, yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So, this slide that's up, this Buckingham Solutions slide, I think it speaks for itself, right? I think for me, most of us in this business that have chosen the path that we've taken have chosen it by design, right? When we start to really have those private conversations with ourselves in those lonely moments, we look at and see these gaps. And so for me, we didn't start we did not start at the level of the relationship that we've evolved to with Buckingham, right? I mean, we only did a few things and kind of slowly evolved our way into this very close collaboration. But when you look at this slide, it helps to speak to exactly what is going on for many of us. And these are where all the growth limitations exist for every one of us that are on this side of the table. And so you start to see these things and identify, I have a blind spot here. I may need some help. I was in a conversation with a new network security firm that we hired last week, and he had it was such a great line and a great reflection that he shared with me. He said, most companies, Chris, your size, don't need a chief technical officer. They don't need one person. They need really like 5 or 6 micro specializations at a very fractional and part-time level. And I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And this is exactly the way we see these issues. We don't have advanced planning cases that are showing up at our door every single moment of every day. But when we do, we know that we can solve those. We landed one of the biggest clients, probably will be our firm's biggest client, as a result of working with Ernest Clark and his team on the advanced planning team around this complex cap gain issue that we had to solve. And because of that, the client was, really delighted to work with us because we had incredible personal affinity to one another, but knowing that we also had this competency, it allows us to play bigger. And, to Michael's point, our business is about having confidence and trust, and that expression is felt by both parties. Having these resources at our disposal and trusted relationships inside of the organization, it's really genuinely priceless for me specifically.
Thanks, Chris. I wanted to thank you both, Steve, too. The care that you bring to your clients is incredible. And we're blown away by what you all do for your clients and how you add value in those relationships. It's extraordinary. We're lucky to work in a community like this. For those advisors that are still on and you've muddled through this last hour, we know, again, this time is time that you've taken away from potentially your clients, family to spend with us. Hopefully you've picked up some ideas at a minimum. If you do want to speak more about what Buckingham does, how we do it, if you want to talk to other advisors, we are any kind of hard sell is antithetical to who we are, and we're here to help you if we can help, and we'll be very direct in that. And so if you do have questions, we have our information on here. You're welcome to email me or Steve. Steve's email is up on screen, but I'm apotts@buckinghamgroup.com. We're happy to answer any questions. And Chris and Michael, just thank you both so much for sharing your experiences. And we are unequivocally honored to work with you both. And we feel lucky. So thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks to everyone that joined too. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again. Take care. Have a great rest of the week.